Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so time for our slightly delayed regular meeting of the Beavercreek City Planning Commission. Since the first Wednesday, our normal day, was on the 4th of July, everybody wanted to see fireworks outside, so we are meeting tonight. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Ms. Akers?
Here.
Mr. Height is absent. Mr. Loftus?
Here.
Mr. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Self?
Here, and we need a motion to excuse our absent member, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to excuse Mr. Alex Height.
Second.
And a second, and we'll do that by general consensus. Thank you. Agenda, we need to approve the agenda. Staff, I think we have a slight modification to the agenda.
Yeah, we're going to be removing the zoning code, the zoning map update from that agenda. It's not necessary for it to go through Planning Commission in the way that we're actually updating it. So that'll just be removed, and it will only be going through City Council.
Okay. So if you're here for the public hearing for the zoning map update, you can go home. No other changes? Okay, I'll need an approval, motion to approve the agenda as modified, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda for the July 18th meeting, removing PC 18-9 zoning map update.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And I have a second, and we'll do that by general consensus. Thank you. Minutes from the June meeting. Any additions, corrections, changes? We good? I need yet one more motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the June meeting.
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And we'll do that by general consensus. Okay, now that we've got all that out of the way, we have one item tonight, and that's a decision item, PUD 97-3, Mod 618.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Before you is an application requesting approval of a minor modification for Phase 4 of the Soin Medical Center. If you choose to approve this evening, it would allow for the construction of the south tower to the Soin Medical Center, so that would be an approximately 172,000 square foot, 7-story expansion to the existing hospital. So you're probably wondering how something this large could just be going through the minor mod process instead of needing a major mod and public hearings. But in 2009, the Mills Morgan Medical Campus was approved by Planning Commission and City Council, and at that time, this phase of the construction was approved. However, with that approval, they added a condition that would require that when they were ready for construction, it come through Planning Commission so that the Planning Commission could ensure that it was architecturally compatible and that there was enough parking. So moving on to architectural compatibility, this is the existing hospital as it is right now, a kind of 3D rendering, and the proposal would be for the 7-story wing on the back side of the building. So this Pentagon comes along this way. You have Royal Gateway here. This is the pond behind the lakes of Beavercreek, the apartment complex. And so you can see that second addition there, pretty significant addition. So as you can see, the elevations show that it is pretty much going to be exactly the same as the rest of the existing building. They're going to be using the same color, brick, glass, metal features as the main body of the building. And as you can see, it's mostly constructed primarily of a brick that is the same color as the existing building. The other component that the Planning Commission was tasked to review was the parking for the site. The applicant actually completed the entire parking area, I believe it was last year. Originally, the plan was to do that in phases, I guess, as construction went along, but they decided to go ahead and complete the entire parking lot last year. So the entire parking area accommodates a full build-out. So I think the total parking that has been provided, including the removal of the parking for this addition, is 966 spaces. And according to our zoning code requirement, which is based on beds and the number of employees, they're required to have 901. So they meet that requirement as well. Stormwater management, there are no changes. All stormwater was accounted for in the original calculations when the original specific site plan was approved. As far as landscaping and lighting go, the landscape plan isn't quite up to, I didn't even attach it here, quite up to our standards, but we will require that they do submit a landscape plan before we do permitting to make sure that they do add some plantings and replace anything that is damaged when they do this construction. And then the lighting, they're just adding a couple of additional lights on the back there, and we've conditioned that those lights match the existing lights throughout the site. Based on that, staff is recommending approval with the 14 conditions. A couple of the other conditions that we've added, one of those is that this area to the west here be seeded and fixed up once all construction is complete. We don't want to see that staying the way it is, and if there's ever any need for additional parking, then they'll come back to Planning Commission to do some sort of parking area there. They may be required to pay impact fees as well. That's something that the engineering department will review. And as I stated, we're recommending approval with 14 conditions, and I can answer any questions that you may have now, and also the applicants, architects, engineers, everyone's here to answer any other questions you may have as well.
Thank you very much. Our usual very comprehensive report from staff. Okay, folks, I'm just going to throw this open. We've got everybody you can think of from Soin plus our staff. We could answer all your questions, so fire away. Okay, if you're going to be shy, I'll ask. I usually go last, but I got to get it going here. I guess someone from the Soin side rather than the construction side, is the new building going to be mostly beds, mostly offices, treatment area, or?
Yeah, I can go ahead and approach.
Great.
My name's Rick Dodds, president of Soin Medical Center. I'd be happy to take that question, Mr. Self. And what we're looking at right now is just a surgery expansion. So mostly related to our surgery expansion, and then the rest of it would be beds as we go up. And initially it would be an ICU on the second floor. Lower level would be a lot of shelled space. With 172,000, we're not going to build it out. Similar to the way we opened up Soin is, obviously we opened up 3 floors when we opened up Soin, and then as volume warranted, we would open up additional floors. It's that same fit and feel and finish that we would do as well.
Okay, so, but built out, the new 7-floor facility will have approximately how many beds? I realize that.
Fully built out, the number exactly is, it would depend upon what we would do with the other patient care floors.
Okay.
It would depend on what we do with other
Well, I
patient
mean,
care
just-
floors.
Are we talking
ballpark
50,
all-
are we talking 75?
It's about 30 per floor, so depending upon how we would build them out, if it's inpatient rooms, critical care, if we'd use them for different things, but it would be probably a little over 250 beds,
Okay.
fully built out.
Great.
Ish. So don't
Ish.
quote me on that number.
Understood. I
Yeah.
won't hold you to it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to what the actual number would be.
Yeah, perfect. Good question.
Great, thank you. Folks,
I have a
fire away.
And actually for you, Mr. Dodds. So do you guys have any cross-parking agreements in place? And I know we've got adequate parking, but as we've talked, I go to Kiwanis every 2 weeks, and
Yep.
I know during noon sometimes it can be, you're in the back 2-3 rows. I mean, are there any cross-parking agreements in place, or for overflow, or if we have disastrous events, things like that? Because, I mean, the parking it's tight. I've been on that site dozens of times, so.
Yeah, we don't have any cross-parking agreements at this time that I know of. I'm going to look at my team just to make sure, but I don't believe we have any cross-parking agreements. And, parking's always a consideration that we're going to need to, from a regulatory, I think that our intent would be as the campus continues to fill up, to continue to go back, and that lot across the way and where employees park as well, I think is always a consideration.
Okay.
So from your experience, what we probably need to do is to move towards a more consolidated employee parking area, which would allow for much more patient parking for visitors as well and guests.
Sure.
And that's something we're committed to doing as
Do you
well.
have additional land beyond what's on this? I mean, is this the other side of Royal Gateway? Is that owned?
So
currently?
the other side of Royal Gateway is owned by us. That lot
So
is
if
ours
you-
as well.
Again, I'm not worried
Yep.
about it. If we meet the code, we meet the code. I'm just concerned if you guys do have the ability, if you see that's going to become an issue. Okay, that's all.
I think that's a great suggestion, though. Thank you for sharing.
That's all I have. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Nick.
So I've just got one question for staff. and that is on the back side here. You can't tell from that picture, but there's only one handicap spot
Okay.
in the back. So is that back parking lot going to be used for access to this new addition, or is that more employee parking back there?
I can actually answer
Yeah,
that.
you can
Okay.
answer that.
Yeah.
If you go back to the aerial view, or if you, that view's fine as well.
Yeah, right there.
If you look at how the patient flow in the entrance, it still would utilize the same entrance feel, and so additional individuals coming in from a patient perspective utilize the same parking spaces and same operational flow. So it's very key in the design of the tower, the way that it's situated, that operational flow doesn't change as we add additions to the building. And so it maintains the front entrance, which maintains a consistent patient flow. It's good for safety. It's good for the community as well to have a consistent place to go. Doesn't confuse people that way. It makes it easy
Absolutely.
from that standpoint. Yeah, good
Thank you.
question.
That's all I got.
Are we good? Okay, then I need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve PUD 97-3 Mod 618 with the following 14 conditions, recommendations.
Okay. I have a motion,
Mr. Chair, I second that
and
motion.
I have a second. And just to remind you all that since this is a minor mod to an existing PUD, we are the ones that make the decision on this. This does not go forward to council. It's one of those areas that we are legislative. So, with that said, any second helpings?
No, sir.
Okay, then I'll ask for a roll call.
Mr. Loftus,
Yes.
Mr. Schreider,
Yes.
Ms. Akers?
Yes.
Mr. Self?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. We're most pleased to see the new construction. The whole Soin Medical Center not only looks good, but it is really an asset to the community. So we're most pleased that it's doing well and expanding.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing the finished product.
Oh, we can't wait as well.
I bet. Thank you. Okay, folks, we're fresh out of agenda items, so I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second, and we are setting a new record. 14 minutes. We are adjourned.
Wow.